was subsequently expelled for his involvement in protests. In 1968, he joined the Black Panther Party as part of the education cadre. He left the party after the assassination of Fred Hampton. And then he joined the Army in 1972 to avoid being a target of the FBI. After leaving the military, he became an acupuncturist. You trained under Matula Shakur, right?
Well, I trained in a program that he developed.
Trained in a program that Matula Shakur developed. In 1992, he discovered the world of professional storytelling, and he has been telling stories and teaching storytelling around the country and around the world ever since. He specializes in stories of African and African American history and culture, as well as multicultural stories. Since 2014, he has worked in California prisons as part of the Arts and Corrections program, teaching inmates to find, develop, and tell their stories. In 2019, McCarty was the subject of the award-winning film, The Story of Michael D. McCarty, A Belonging in the USA documentary, which shares the life journey of McCarty, who even in the face of great obstacles, spreads joy wherever he goes. The film follows Michael as he evolves from aspiring scientist to Black Panther Party member, from FBI target to soldier, from drug addict to health nut. The twists and turns of Michael's life will fill you with hope, laughter, and a living example of resilience. And we get to have all of that wrapped into one in the actual person of Michael D. McCarty. All the way from Illinois chapter, but flew up all the way from LA, Michael D. McCarty. Round of applause, everybody.
How y'all doing? Very first thing, let me fill you in on something that wasn't in the film. One of my Illinois chapter comrades, Hank Gaddis, AKA Poison, he worked with a doctor who performed the autopsy on Fred. Had they not put 2 bullets in Fred's head at the end of the raid, he still would have died. Because the night before the raid, Fred was given 6 times the lethal dose of Seconal by another, I'm not sure if it was William O'Neill, who was an FBI player. There are a couple of them. One of them people did that. So even had he not had 2 bullets in the head, they were so scared of Fred, they killed him twice. They killed him twice. And I was talking with some people, Doc, Ron Satcher, he was like 5'5" maybe, 100 pounds soaking wet. 5 bullets from a Thompson submachine gun in his belly. And he survived many more years after that. I got a lot to say, but I want to be sure that I get you all's questions answered, because running my mouth is what I do. So somebody give me a question, and then we'll go from there. Yes?
I was just going to ask, what was another lesson known, just as a whole? So like I was bringing up about the free lunch program. Like, they just provided free lunch, but they gave tutoring, like kids that didn't have like stable homes that would take us to school.
Yeah.
Like, but it was a lot of lesser known things.
A lot of programs. In my documentary, one of my storytelling friends, Bob the Storyteller, he talks about how he got shoes from the Black Panther Party. I think it was the Long Beach Black Panther Party. The idea was this: what do the people need? And how can we provide it? What do the people need and how we can provide? How can we provide it? Kids going to school, not having breakfast, and that's still an issue. So that made the breakfast program. The health clinic. Y'all know the health clinic in Chicago, that started the programs for sickle cell anemia. It's testing for sickle cell anemia. That started at the Illinois chapter on 16th Street and Avers, 2 blocks from where I grew up. So the idea is, what is needed and how can we provide it? All right? And the thing, here's the thing. We often think that, well, I'm not rich. I don't have a lot of money. I ain't got no money. What can I do? Doesn't matter what you do something. I give out these cards. It's a little thing, but it's not. Because sometimes all somebody needs is someone to show that they're worthy of care and concern. It doesn't have to be big. You don't have to have a lot of money. All you have to do is to want to do something. And find that something and do it. If you only do it for one person, you've changed the world. All right? You have absolutely changed the world. Give me another question. Yes?
What about Fred Hampton to be so dangerous or target that forgot that?
And here's the thing about that made Fred so dangerous. One, he gave a damn. Two, he empowered people to do the kind of thing that I'm talking to you about. Because I was one of those people who he empowered. Let me tell you about Fred. You know, there are leaders. And there are a lot of different leadership qualities. Some leaders are great speakers. Some leaders are great organizers. Some leaders have vision. And any number of different skills. You can all fill in the blanks. Fred was all that in the bag of blue corn chips organic. Okay? Fred was someone who, okay, give an example. One of my comrades, one of my best friends from McCarty, Cliff, when Cliff came to join the Illinois chapter, he had this group of folks, and they came, they was packing heat, and they're like, okay, we want to shoot some white folks and some pigs. And Fred was like, you need to know what we're about. You need to know what we're about, which is another thing that you can do. Educate yourself. And when you educate yourself, then you can educate others. And Fred sat down with Cliff and told him what the party was about, gave him some material, said, now, take a look at this. If this is still something that you're interested in, come on back. And he did. Fred was an amazing speaker. As you've seen just in the film. Live, he was all that, okay? I remember Fred coming to me and saying, listen, I'm supposed to give this speech. I don't have time. I got to do something else. You go. I'm going to go in place of Fred Hampton. But here's the thing about Fred. Because he sent me, I knew I could do it. Because he was that kind of a motivator. He was someone. So we had all these different cadres in the party. There was education cadre, the health cadre, information cadre, and what have you, security. And somebody might be on one cadre, and Fred would talk to that person, no, you need to be someplace else. Because he could see this. He was that kind of person. And this is big. Because a lot of people, when they become leaders and they become known, you can't tell them nothing. All right? Fred wasn't like that. Fred was someone who, if he said something to someone and he was wrong, he would acknowledge it. All right? He was acknowledging it. And that takes big heart, big mind, big care and concern. He was that kind of a leader. He was that kind of a motivator. Give me another question. Yes.
Can you talk about some of the tactics used to break down the silos, to allow community members to collectivize?
To collect?
And like work together? Like
Oh, yeah. So,
Repeat the question.
Can't hear me.
stand with us.
Can you talk about some of the tactics used to actually break down the silos to get community members to collectivize? Just thinking about like the day and age that we live in today, how we're all kind of like living in these silos through like the internet and the world.
Yeah.
The data around us. But there's, in the past, there's a lot of that same way. So how do you actually break that barrier?
Break down barriers and communicate with people.
Yeah.
There's a film of Fred and Rush and some other folks going in the pool halls. Just going into the pool halls and talking with the brothers on the block about what their concerns were, talking about revolution. What did they think about that? And Fred was someone who would listen to people. Okay? Now, that sounds like, oh yeah, you listen to people. No. Y'all know, how many times do you talk to somebody and they're actually listening? How many times is somebody talking to you and you're actually listening? You're sitting there going, meanwhile, you think about this, you think about that. What happened? All right? Fred would listen to people. He would listen to people's ideas, their thoughts, and they would talk and they would discuss. He did not come from this place as, I'm all that, you ain't. That's not where he came from. He came from a place of empowerment. He came from a place of finding your skill and helping you to utilize that skill to help the party, to help the people. That was Fred. And that was the kind of dynamism he was. Let me jump back. I think it was clear in the film that the only shot that was fired was Mark Clark when he got shot. When he got shot, he dropped the shotgun and the bullet went off into, I think it was a slug, went into the ceiling. That was the only bullet that was fired inside. And Hanrahan, no, forget Hanrahan. Y'all know Hanrahan is a pig. Let me talk about the black cop, Gloves Davis. Anybody here from Chicago? Let me tell you about Gloves Davis, all right? I mentioned my friend Cliff. When Cliff was about 10 years old, he was walking down the street and he saw this guy coming out of this doorway, and I'm gonna abuse you, bro, I'm just gonna bump into you. And he bumped into Gloves. Gloves reached in, killed him dead, right there. All right, killed him dead, that's right there. Let me tell you how bad Gloves was, how despicable he was. My father was from Shabuta, Mississippi. My father was born in 1900, okay? My father wasn't about no revolution or none of that. In fact, when I got into all that, my father came real close to taking my ass out. Because as mentioned, I went to this St. Ignatius College Prep, which is a very expensive place to go, costs more than some colleges. And I got kicked out my senior year for leading a walkout. Dad wasn't happy, okay? My mother wasn't happy. I came home, she found out about it in the news, and she was crying. But I had done what she had taught me to do. My mother taught me, said, if you see something wrong, you have an obligation to either do something about it or talk to somebody who could do something about it. And that's what I had done. And I remember one day, this is after a few months of being in the party, I came home, I heard my mother on the phone, talking to one of her friends, defending the Black Panther Party. But here's the kicker. Then my dad says to me, son, if you Panthers gonna kill a cop, you need to shoot Gloves. Okay? And then he asked me to give him some ammunition. All right? That's how despicable Gloves Davis was. All on the south and west side of Chicago, he was known. If you saw Gloves, go the other way. Because he needed no excuse to put a bullet in you. Give me another question.
Talk about coalition building.
Oh, yeah. You go, boy. So, there's a documentary. Have any of you seen American Revolution 2? Oh, sookie now. American Revolution, it's on YouTube. American Revolution 2. Now, y'all know about the Rainbow Coalition. Y'all know about the Young Patriots. All right? Who doesn't know about the Young Patriots? Okay, so here's the dealio. The Young Patriots, poor Appalachian whites, hillbillies, on the north side of Chicago, they had red berets with little Confederate flags on them. When you see this documentary, Bob Lee, our field secretary, went under Fred's direction to go to talk to the Young Patriots about why we should be working together. Now, when you see this, you're going to see this wall-sized Confederate flag on the wall that Bob Lee is standing in front of as he's talking to the young patriots. He said, "You all live in substandard housing, and so do we. Your food is 2nd, 3rd, 12th rate, so is ours. The police whoop your ass, and they whoop ours too. We should be working together." Now think about that. This Black Panther standing in front of this Confederate flag with these hillbillies, okay? And at the end of the film, Michael, who was the director of the film, interviews this old hillbilly guy, and what he says is different from what I say, but I'm a storyteller, I take creative license. So the director asked this old guy, "So what do you think that the Panthers, about the Panthers saying that you all should work together?" "Well, if them Black Panthers gonna support us, I guess we should support them Black Panthers." Now here is what's not in the documentary. After the scene that you see in that movie, the following week, Bob Lee was in Uptown in Chicago to organize, and he was by himself. He usually was with Hank, that was his bodyguard, but this particular day he was by himself. The cops saw him and they swooped down on him. And some of the young patriots saw what had happened. And they put the word out. The cops had taken Bob Lee to put him in the car to take him off to do who knows what. Next thing you know, that police car is surrounded by the young patriots. You hear what I'm saying? These hillbillies surrounded this police car and made that cop let Bob Lee go. What? Black folks, hillbillies, working together? You know that had to be stopped. You know that had to be stopped. Think about that. Think about the power of getting beyond the differences, the insignificant differences, seeing the commonality, and then working together. And that spirit is still going on. Okay, a few years ago, we had the 50th anniversary of the forming of the party here in Oakland. There were a whole bunch of panels. The biggest panel was the Rainbow Coalition. Now, the initial Rainbow Coalition was the Black Panther Party, the Young Lords, which had been a Puerto Rican street gang which had become political, and the Young Patriots. Those were the initial. Rising Up Angry was another group of greasers that joined, and then on and on and on. But let me tell you about this panel at the conference. There were the Polynesian Panthers from New Zealand and the Pacific Islands, the Aboriginal Panthers. In the 1980s, there was a group of blacks in London. The party had ceased to be an organization at this time. These blacks in England learned about the Black Panther Party and started their own chapter. Last year, I was in Nanded, India, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Dalit Panthers. Y'all know what the Dalits are? The term that you probably know is untouchables. Now let me tell you, if you don't know nothing about untouchability, shoot, let me tell you something. I mean, racism has been around for a while, but untouchability, that crap has been around for millennia. Okay, millennia. The current government in India is trying to bring untouchability back. I mean, let me tell you how deep that crap is. So in India, you have 4 castes. You have the Brahmins, who are the priests, you have the military, you have the businessmen, and you have the workers. Those are the 4 basic castes. The untouchables are those people that historically did the horrible job. They cleaned the crap. Literally, they cleaned the crap. All right? Here's how deep that crap went. If the shadow of an untouchable touched the of a Brahmin, a priest. That priest would have to go through purification rituals because his shadow touched. You get what I'm saying? 51 years ago, a group of these Dalits learned about the existence of the Black Panther Party, and they started their own version. But they never had any Panthers come to India. This brother, Jacoby Williams, he wrote a book based on the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, From the Bullet to the Ballot. And he had been in India working with the Dalits when he found out about these Dalit Panthers. So he arranged for us to go. This blew my mind. So we show up. The hall holds about 1,000 people, it's packed. There's another 1,000 people outside trying to get in or just listening, all right? We met a potential presidential candidate if he don't get killed or thrown in jail. All right, we met a potential candidate who was inspired by the Black Panther Party. Think about that. The party is, in a manner of speaking, the original party is defunct, but the reverberations are still kicking ass. All right, the reverberations are still kicking ass. Find the thing that you can do. It can be for a group, it can be for one person. It don't matter. Find that thing that you can do and do it. I give away books, okay? I'm a professional storyteller. I go into libraries, I tell stories, I ask the kids questions, I give them books. But I keep books in my car. And I'll see some kids and I'll just give them books. I'll see some parents, just give them books. Now, I started doing this and I would write a grant and I would have books money in the grant. Now I got bookstores that know what I do. They give me as many books as I want because they know what I'm going to do with the books. But it doesn't matter how many people that you do something for. If it's just one person, do it. Find that thing that you do. Mentioned that I work in prisons. Since 2014, I've been working in the Arts and Corrections program. I go in and I teach guys how to find, develop, and tell their own stories. When they go before the parole board, they have to be able to tell their story. When they get out, go for a job interview, they have to be able to tell their story. Reconnecting with family and friends, they need to be able to tell their story. And I show them how to do this. I've been doing this, like I said, since 2014. Last year, the California Arts Council screwed a bunch of us, and I hadn't been in prisons since last, June. And I can't wait to go back to prison. Okay, I just found out I'm going to be doing 4 prisons this year. I'm like, yes! Because I know that I have something that they not only need, but will use, and it will make their lives better. All right, make their lives better. I tell these guys, I said, look, when you get out, you contact me. I got books for you. I got books for your kids. I use these cards that I've been giving you all. I use those in my classes. Oh, listen to this. Again, it's a little thing, but it ain't. So I give these cards to the guys and I use them as story prompts. And what some of the guys do is when their families come to visit, their wives, their kids, they give them the cards or they'll mail them to them, okay? 3 weeks ago, I was at a LWAP, Life Without Parole group down in LA. And I gave everybody at that conference cards. And I remember I gave this one woman one of the cards and she said, oh, I love these. That ain't usually when I give people these cards, it's the first time they've ever seen them. All right? She said, I love these. Later on, I saw her standing with this guy and she said, give him a card. So I pulled out some cards and said, pick a card. And he just looked at it. She used to send him those cards when he was in prison. I had a guy in one of my classes, he told me when his wife came to visit, he would give her the cards and he would mail them to her. When he got out of prison and went home, she had all the cards he had given her framed. It's a little thing, but it ain't. Yes?
Who is your favorite author or authors of all time?
Oh, I got lots.
I mean, if you had to pick one, for example, if you were to say, there's just one book that we should read.
A Long Way Gone, Memoirs of a Boy Soldier by Ishmael Bia. Anybody read that book? Ishmael Bia, B-E-A-H. A Long Way Gone, Memories of a Boy Soldier. He's from Sierra Leone. And when he was about 12 years old, there was a war going on, and the insurgents came through his village and pretty much wiped everybody out. And the kids, his age, they were taken, and it's either you become a soldier or you get killed. And he became a boy soldier. And eventually, he got away from that. And it was a hard process for him. It was a very, very hard process for him. And the reason the book is very special for me, okay, I get this book, I'm a readaholic, okay? I wish that I could read 2 books at the same time. One each eye read the book, I'd be happy. All right? I actually once read, y'all ever heard of Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet? I remember reading that this guy, he could sleep on a book and know it was in the book. I tried that, all I got was a neck ache. Okay, what was I just talking about before I screwed on that tangent? Boy Soldier, yeah, Ishmael Bia. So, I'm reading this book. At the time, I was on the board of directors of National Storytelling Network. We were having a board meeting, and I was reading the book, so whenever we had a break, I'd run back to my room and read. So I'm reading and reading, he's talking about how he got free. He came to New York to go and speak, and he met the storyteller, Laura Sims. And she told the story from his country, and they started communicating. He went back to Sierra Leone, and the war had been away from the capital, and it came to the capital now, and he was in a situation where if he didn't get out of Dodge, he either had to go back to being a soldier again, or he was going to get killed. And he contacted Laura in some way, shape, or form. She got him out of there. He moved to New York, and she adopted him. And it was funny. I went to a presentation they did and said, we are a multi-religious, multi-racial family, just the 2 of us. Because she's a white Jewish Buddhist, and he's a black Muslim who went to Christian schools. But the book is amazing to me about Oakland. No matter how bad your situation is, there's always somebody who's got something going on that's worse. And I remember when I met him, and I was telling him how what he went through made my struggle seem insignificant. He said, no, because they're your struggles. They're your struggles, and therefore they are significant for you. So that's one of the books that I recommend. Another one is The Burglary. Anybody know this book about the burglary? Oh, okay, let me educate you. March 8th, 1971, the night of the first Ali Frazier fight. This group of peace activists had decided that the FBI was doing some dirt, and they needed to find out what the dirt was. So this group of about 8 to 10 people decided that they were going to break into an FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania, and steal the file to find out what the dirt was that the FBI was doing. Now these were college professors, folks with kids, and what have you. And they did this sucker, man, and they pulled the sucker off. They are how we know about COINTELPRO. Because they found one piece of paper with that phrase, COINTELPRO. And they had made copies of those files and sent it to all these different reporters. And one of them got to investigating. And COINTELPRO was discovered. And they put it out there and they wrecked J. Edgar Hoover's life. Okay? Which is a wonderful thing. The burglary. I'm reading it now for about the 4th or 5th time. When we had the 50th anniversary, I was on a panel with 2 of the burglars. But listen to this. Listen to this. The FBI never caught them. They never caught them. Okay? These folks had a plan and they stuck to it. They agreed, they worked out all the, you gotta read this book, you gotta read this book, you gotta read this book. Did I say you gotta read the book? You gotta read the book. It's amazing. And they pulled this off and they said, once we do this, we're going our separate ways and we're not gonna communicate, we're never gonna talk about this. But decades later, they told one of the reporters that they had sent the files to, and she wrote this book. And it's amazing. The Burglary. Excellent book. Excellent book. Give me another question. Yes, dear.
Fred Hampton. He was so young, 21 years old. Do you know anything about his upbringing, his parents? Or
Oh, yeah.
How a young man that young? I can't believe that he came out to be such a leader like that. And talk
Yeah,
like that.
Fred Hampton, he grew up in Maywood. He was a top student and an organizer. He was a top student and an organizer. He was in the youth wing of the NAACP. And he was a prominent speaker there. And he was from, his mother used to babysit Emmett Till. Okay, his mother used to babysit Emmett Till. Those families were tight. So he started his activism in high school. Maywood had a pool where blacks couldn't go. So he led a protest to the point where they got a pool. In fact, it's named after Fred Hampton. There's a pool named after Fred Hampton that was built because blacks couldn't go to the other pool. And so that activism started then and it just grew. When the Black Panther Party came to Chicago, there were actually 2 groups that wanted to start a chapter. Bobby Rush was with one group, Fred was with the other group, and Bobby Rush said, we need Fred. And that's how that relationship started, and that's how he ended up being with the Illinois chapter with Rush, and the rest, as they say, is history. There's a book by Jeffrey Haas. I don't remember the title of the book, but it's by Jeffrey Haas, who was one of our lawyers who was in the film. He has a book about the Illinois chapter, about Fred, and the brother who I mentioned, Jacoby. I told y'all the name of the book, right? Ballad from the Bullet to the Ballad.
Yeah.
By Jacoby Williams. That's another book that I recommend. Give me another question. Yes.
We know a lot more about, Judas, the movie Judas.
Mm-hmm.
What was the atmosphere? What was it like during that time? And
what was the dynamic?
What was developing, while all that was unfolding, where you had somebody you could put it to that level?
Oh yeah. We had there were lots of informers in all of the organizations. In fact, there were chapters that were started by FBI informers, okay, and what have you. But the 60s was, we done had enough of this crap time. That's what the 60s were. People were saying enough. And you had the the civil rights movement, you had the nonviolent movement, you had the Black Panther Party, you had Robert Williams. Y'all know Robert Williams? If y'all don't know Robert Williams, you need to know about him. Negroes with Guns, that's the book. Negroes with Guns. Let me tell you about Robert Williams. He lived out in the South. I can't remember the state right now, but the Klan was running amok. Now here's the thing about the Klan. They come in large numbers and they attack small numbers. The thing about the Klan was, if they came at you with guns and you had guns, them suckers ran away. And so Robert Williams and his group, that's what they did. That's what they did. They organized, they armed themselves, and when mess went down, they were down with the mess. And the Klan was like, we out of here. Did I get your question?
No.
Tell.
I want to know, like, what happened to the infiltrator? Like,
Well, O'Neill
yeah.
killed his damn self, and as far as I'm concerned, he died too damn quick. He walked out on the Eisenhower Expressway and got hit by a truck. He died. I wish he had lived and suffered like till now. There were other infiltrators, agents and what have you, provocateurs. I don't know anything about what happened to them, but O'Neill died, and that makes me happy.
Yes. Give me another question.
Yes.
I can't hear.
The question was, what drew me to the party?
Yeah.
So, it's all my mama's fault. You know, it's amazing the realizations you have. Things happen in your life and you're just going along, and then one day you have a realization. I grew up in a household where we got 4 newspapers, Sun-Times, the Tribune, the Daily News, and the Chicago Defender. We got all the black magazines. We got Ebony, we got Sophia, Negro Digest. And it wasn't until recently that I understood that my mother had set me up to be a revolutionary. She didn't know that, but I'm getting all this information. And my mother told me, when you see something wrong, you got to do something about it. And so I did. And because I had this background. Again, find what you can do and do it. Did I answer your question? Okay, good. Yes.
What about the political system? Do you believe in voting?
I vote. Yeah, I vote. You do what you can until you can do something else. You take advantage of, as long as voting pisses off black folks and progressive people, voting pisses off racist, low-minded, scum-sucking Republicans, let's say, I'm a happy camper. Okay, that was the last question. Find that thing that means something to you and do something about it. And like I said, it don't matter. You ain't got to reach 100 people. If you reach one person. Okay, this is the last story that I'm going to tell you. I'm lying. I gave, 93, I was giving workshops at the Boys and Girls Clubs in Long Beach. And that's when I started with the book giveaways. And so one day I'm setting up, I spread out the books, and it was like a 4 to 6 week, 10 week session. This little girl walks in, and she said, "Oh, what's going on here?" I said, "It's a storytelling workshop. If you come in and tell a story, you get a book." She said, "Oh, can I come?" I said, "Sure." So she's looking at the book. She says, "Wow, this is great. Today is my birthday." I said, "It's your birthday. Take a book." And she got a book, and she came every week and got a book. I wish I had a picture of this. One day she came in with this 10 by 12 sheet of paper. And she had drawn little flowers and all kinds of things, and she wrote, "Thank you, Mr. Michael. You are so sweat." That sucker hangs on my wall, and I absolutely love it. Folks, find that thing, do that thing, change the world, because you can. And that's the end of that.
Another round of applause for Michael McCarty, everybody.